Eddie Hearn, it's not every day you sign an Olympic gold medalist. How does it feel?
Feels great. It's been a long journey. We've taken our time with Luke. We've made him make sure that he speaks to as many people as possible, look at as many opportunities as possible for him. But finally, we've got our man, and we're delighted.
You talked about making Luke more of a crossover star. He's already made those steps already, but what sort of lengths are you going to go to make him one of the biggest stars in boxing in this country?
Well, I think he's virtually there already, and I've seen through going to Hull, through being around Luke, the fan base that he's got, the people that are interested, and one of my jobs is to make sure that boxing fans are happy, but another one of my jobs is to grow the sport as much as I can, and Luke Campbell gives me that ability. He's a huge crossover star already, and when you go to Hull, I've not seen a response in a city like that since the likes of Ricky Hatton and people like that, because you walk down the street with Luke Campbell in the Hull and it's young children, it's old ladies, it's middle-aged men, everyone wants to be a part of this journey. And to do a big outdoor event for his pro debut is an audacious move, but we're ready, and I know it's going to be able to do it, so it's exciting times for boxing.
Luke achieved everything as an amateur, European champion, world silver medalist and the Olympic gold, but as it stood when he boxed in the Olympics, the amateur code and the professional code had never really been so far apart in terms of what they look like as a sport. And Luke seemed to have that amateur style down to a T, high guard. He was a tricky fighter. Do you think his transition to the pros is going to be slightly more difficult, given that he was operating at the very high level of the amateurs?
Yeah, there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on him straight away when he turns pro, and people will be looking at his performance. Will he adapt the amateur style to the pro game? All I can tell you is Luke Campbell is one of the most intelligent fighters I've been around. He reminds me of Carl Froch. He studies the game. He wants to improve non-stop. He'll find a way to adapt to that pro game. I think what he's learned in the amateurs is how to be successful as an amateur. He's clever enough and he's smart enough to learn how to be successful as a pro. It may take 10 fights, it may take 20 fights, it may take 2 fights. But, what most important is to give him that platform to learn and to adapt that style, and I think he'll do it very quickly.
Talked about having an open air show as an audacious move. It's sort of, where do you go from that? If that's his first fight, how do you, how quickly are you going to rush him through? You don't want him to obviously be rushed too quickly, but people are going to be expecting big things from an Olympic gold medalist.
Sure, the first stage is always, it's the big funfair, if you like, the first fight, the debut, the homecoming back to Hull, all these kind of things that us promoters love, But really, from there, you take him all over the country to build him as a fighter and to let him learn. So, obviously, from there, he'll be boxing on the undercards to Froch, to Kell Brook, to George Groves, to Lee Selby, all those kind of people, and just learning. But obviously he'll have the appeal in any town he goes because of what he's achieved and also because of his other work that appeals to me as well. But really, the first show is a celebration of Luke Campbell in Hull turning pro, and then we'll box him all over the country to just learn and keep improving.
Was there a lot of competition to get his signature on that contract? And you said you let him encourage him to talk to other promoters, but was there a point where you thought we might not get him?
Yeah, there was a few times. We had come up against some stiff opposition, but I spoke to him about the other offers because I'd like him to make the right decision. I felt that we were the right decision. We had the platform on Sky Sports, but also me, who's prepared to come up to Hull a couple of times a week to make this dream happen and to build him in that area. And I'm not sure that the other promoters would have done that. So I did honestly feel that we were the best place for him. And like I said, we talked through the other offers and the other promoters that have gone to see him. And he took his time, and we got the job done.
I might not be right here, but I think Luke's probably the first Olympic gold medalist that Sky Sports have ever had from their debut fight. So that's quite a groundbreaking thing for Sky. Obviously, for you as a promoter, having a gold medalist. Does that mean that Sky and yourselves are really going to try and get him to the sort of world title level within a couple of years' time?
We'll do it in whatever time's right for the fighter. I'm absolutely overjoyed you just told me that stat, because I'm going to go straight and email Sky Sports now and confirm that with them. It's a great stat for me. But, sometimes people will moan at you that you're going too slow, some will moan you're going too fast. We'll listen to Luke, we'll listen to his coaches, and we'll do the right things for Luke Campbell as a fighter. Obviously, the big opener in Hull will be a great event, and he'll box a 6-rounder on that show, etc., etc. But it's not enough on itself to appease boxing fans. It's going to appease the city of Hull. But I want to build a card underneath it. The likes of Tommy Coyle against Derry Matthews already done. Just talking to Kell Brook this morning, he may well come back on that card as well. So I want to build a special night of boxing, and obviously a celebration of Luke Campbell starting this journey.
Let's just talk about your upcoming fight that Lee Purdy's going to be facing Devon Alexander. A lot of people may be shocked that Purdy got that opportunity, but he'd be stupid not to take that opportunity. But what do you say to the critics that say you're just throwing your boxer in for a payday and he's got no chance of winning?
Well, one, it's not really up to me. It's up to the fighter and the manager. We'll all sit down together and go through it. But all I can say to them is, Lee Purdy, I was in the office with Tony Sims, his manager, a day before we made that announcement, and we were thinking, wow, what are we going to do now with Lee Purdy? We'd like the Denton Vassell fight, but, you know, that's not really going to happen, and, you know, when's he next going to fight? All of a sudden, the phone goes, it's the IBF. We've gone down the rankings, we've bumped into Lee Purdy. Would you like 6 or 7 times as much money and a shot at a world title, live on Showtime, live on Sky Sports? I never see the problem. You know, this is what the fights you want to be in. Lee Purdy is a huge underdog. He's strong, he punches hard. He has a chance against Devon Alexander. He has a small chance, but he knows that. He believes he can win. His trainer believes he can win. Do I believe he can win? Yeah, if he chins Devon Alexander, I do actually. But maybe he won't. Maybe he'll shock the world. But if you don't want to be in those kind of fights, you might as well pack up the game. I'd be a little bit disappointed if I spoke to Lee Purdy in his position and he turned down that opportunity in that fight. And again, you know, the other ones you're talking about, Gavin Rees, cleaned up at European level, former world champion, gets offered life-changing money against Adrian Broner on HBO. No lose situation. Goes in there, great performance, HBO love him, Sky Sports love him, stock's gone up. Darren Barker is the other one you might be talking about against Martinez. Goes in there, really tough fight, after 6 or 7 rounds, pretty much dead even in my opinion, loses a fight. Wow, Barker was fantastic, he's great, stock goes up. And he makes great money as well. You know, it's almost like me saying to you, look, I've got this opportunity for you, this job opportunity, and it's about 10 times as much money that you're on at the moment. I'm not sure whether you can do it, but I believe in you, and I think it's a great opportunity for you. What do you think?
10 times 0 isn't a lot.
Yeah, but you know, that's life, isn't it? You don't say, oh, no, to be honest with you, I'm just happy doing this. If you do, I don't want to be a part of that, you know. And sometimes, I'm not saying you just sling fighters in fights, but you look at the current situation of where the journey's mapping out. And if it's like snakes and ladders, you know, if you get to a stage where you've got a snake in front of you, and all of a sudden you've got a chance to get on this ladder up the top of the board, you've got to make that move. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes you won't. But even by making that move, you're going to move out of the way of the snakes, you know, for the next fight. You know, so, you know, of all the fights we've been involved with, Lee Purdy is probably the biggest underdog, you know, the ones we talked about there. But again, he's up for it, you know, he's up for the challenge. And, you know, Devon Alexander, he's not a huge puncher. You know, oh yes, he's quick, yes, he's skillful, but, you know, it's not as if he's going in there with a guy that's, you know, like a Lucas Matisse. Actually, that would be a good fight, Matisse v Purdy, but, you know, who's got dynamite in both hands. And I think if Lee can walk him down and land shots, you never know. But, you know, people are going to moan about throwing fighters in, but that's just basically comes from generally promoters who can't manufacture the shots.
Thank you. And last question is St George's Day today, so I have to ask you a question about St George Groves. You've named his opponent for the Froch undercard. Again, a bit of a backlash there. Some people thinking you've had a bit more of a lead time with this fight with George, and they were expecting maybe a slightly better quality of opponent. But what do you say to that?
I'm happy with Noe Gonzalez. Adam Booths is happy with Noe Gonzalez. He's a decent fighter. He's 13-2. He punches very hard. He's number 11 in the WBC. People want George Groves to fight Andre Ward, fight Jermaine Taylor. You know, these fights, you know, we went down the list, we looked at every opportunity, and like I said to someone the other day, let's go down the list on BoxRec, for example, where Gonzalez is, I think, 29 or 30, and we'll go through the fighters that we offered it to, or the ones that weren't available, and I'll explain everyone that, you know, Maxim Vlaslov was offered the fight, no good. We nearly did a fight with Sartazan, had promotional issues. Jermaine Taylor, not interested in fighting anyone, wants to sit there waiting for a shot. You know, so there's all kinds of people, but I'm happy with Gonzalez. You know, you've got to realise that that's a decent fight for me. George is the favourite, obviously, but you've also got Tony Bellew against Chilemba added to the bill. That's a WBC final eliminator. That's a fight that's just topped its own show. No, it wasn't a great fight the first time around. I guarantee it'll be a better fight this time around. It has to be. But, you know, some other fights to be added to the card, and also some big international fights as well. Looks like going to be added from abroad.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Eddie. Cheers. All the best.